Good morning. Good morning. Much better.
Yeah, that's much better.
Hi, everybody. Please feel free to join us as we talk about one of the most important topics in space, I think, that we never really get to talk about, and that is communication. My name is Tere Riley. I'm the Director of Marketing Communications for Redwire. And with me today are two of my favorite people ever. We have Camille Bergin, also known as the Galactic Gal, aerospace engineer turned science communicator. And then we have Patrick O'Neill, who is the public affairs lead for the International Space Station National Laboratory. Thank you both for joining me. It's good to have you. You have to turn on your mic, though.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome.
I'll tell you what, he's good looking, but he's not too bright. So
All right. So first thing we're going to talk about, and my question first is to Camille. The Galactic Gal is back, full force. You came out with a passion about communications, especially around science and space. What made you do that? Why did you have to follow that? Tell us more what your journey has been going like.
Yeah, so if you aren't familiar, I'm a science communicator and have spent the last 5 years working in the industry as an aerospace engineer and then business development and marketing, and have been building an online platform, the Galactic Gal, for the last couple of years. And yeah, I kind of took a little bit of a break while I was working in startup world. If you guys work in startup world, you understand why. Just got too busy. And then about this time last year, Patagonia, we all know Patagonia, very huge sustainability brand globally. And they ran an out-of-home marketing campaign called Not Mars. We're in the business of saving our home planet. And I was like, what's everyone looking at?
Just you.
Just me? Okay. And they, yes, like we should absolutely be focusing on saving our planet. But what that campaign did, what I don't think they understand that they did, is completely undermine the value of space technology for humanity. And I don't blame them. I don't blame anybody else that has done it, ran those campaigns like that or have those opinions. I don't want to put blame on us, but I think that the space industry needs to do a better job of communicating our value for humanity and helping people understand that yes, there are some people that would love to just go to Mars, but that's not the vast percentage of what we're doing here. And we really need to be talking about, the value that satellites and any space technology, even exploration, have for life here on Earth. So, earlier this year, I decided to leave my industry job and do this full time. So now have a great team behind me and working on that. And yeah.
That's great. I mean, I agree. I mean, I think space communication is not usually talked about a whole lot. Especially at conferences like this. And I think we need to be better about
completely agree.
The importance of communication and marketing. It's at the heart, I think, of the space industry and what we do and how do we get the word out. It's our responsibility, I think, to also make sure that we're spreading that word and we're giving opportunities for others to learn about the benefits of your everyday life, right? Like GPS, if you have an Apple phone and Google Maps, space is the reason why you have such good technology. So speaking of which, Patrick, the communication side of space has been shifting. And from a government nonprofit organization perspective, what is the National Lab doing to sort of shift in the direction of where and how consumers are getting their content, their news, and spreading the good word, like you said, all the time of the greatness of space?
is that really what I said, or did I say something else?
I have many quotes.
Yeah, so to your point, I mean, space has evolved quite heavily, especially over the last 5 to 10 years, as it relates to a communication perspective. And I would say one of the great things that's happened is we launch so much. One of the bad things from a communication perspective is we launch so much, which makes it very difficult for us to be able to reach out to that traditional space media and say, hey, there's this great investigation that's flying, or there's this technology demo that's going to be going on this next mission to the space station, because they're being inundated with so much requests coming in left and right. So to your point, we do have to kind of augment our message and how it is that we disseminate our content. And it's not always focused now on just the traditional space media like it once was. Now, if Redwire, for instance, wants to go and launch an investigation to print cardiac tissue using its biofabrication facility. Instead of my reaching out to the traditional space media, I'm focused now on targeted audiences that are maybe a little bit more aligned with thinking that that type of research is cool. It's not necessarily just the general public and thinking that space is out there, but how can I target audiences so that not only do they see that this is something that resonates to the type of work that they do, but maybe ultimately it's something that they want to get involved with too, so that they can reach out to a Redwire, they could reach out to another partner and say, space is something that seems to be very, very accessible these days. We want to be a part of it because we see a lot of the great advantages that happen by doing R&D in low Earth orbit and what that can bring to humanity and what that can also bring for putting, enabling commerce in low Earth orbit and beyond.
You're right. Redwire is the best partner for BFF.
I know where I'm sitting right now.
No, and actually that's a good point because we do want folks to understand that these opportunities exist today and they can be used today and it's not a long process. It's not going to take a year anymore to get your research up to space. And there's direct benefits that you can see right away in less than 6 months sometimes. So I think that's a really good point. Now, if I know you talked about launch, would you say in some ways that that's a challenge, or maybe to both of you, what are the other communication challenges or gaps we're facing that maybe we need to think about in shifting in how we do things, whether it's Redwire or anybody else in communications?
I think the biggest thing that I think we should focus on is not talking so much in our bubble. So you come to an event like this and it's great to see everyone in the industry and it's great to collaborate and talk about ways that we can work together and solve these issues. But no one here, most people here are not from out of the space industry. Another conference I went to last year, we were in Norway and it was Space for Climate Change, and not a single person there was from the climate change industry. Or Greta Thunberg was right across in Sweden and she wasn't there. And I asked hey, why is she not here? And they're like, we don't even know how to reach out to her. And I'm like, okay, well, let's start there. Let's get these people in. So I think that would be the biggest thing I'd encourage people to think about is how do you get outside of the bubble and reach, your content to the right people that maybe might not be in the industry, to your point.
Yeah, I think on top of that too, one of the things we've been doing for a lot of these missions is, we've in the comm circle, you've heard the phrase that all news is local. So again, not necessarily focusing on the space bubble, but if you're a company that's launching an investigation from Indianapolis, reaching out to that community, letting people know that, hey, there's a company, Eli Lilly, let's use them as an example.
Yes,
who
we can.
do they work with?
Redwire.
Wow, goodness gracious. So using Eli Lilly as an example, saying that you are an innovative, pioneering pharmaceutical company that has been doing research on the space station for the better part of 5 or 6 years, looking at a litany of R&D, but reaching out to that audience, letting people know that there are companies in their community that are thinking differently, that are doing things differently for the benefit of all of us. So I think that's an area that we definitely need to tap into and have done a better job with. But, sitting next to you, Camille, as an example, I think that, we now have morphed into this world of digital content, and we have a variety of creators like yourself that we can tap into that have passion, but also have the ability to, again, reach new and diverse audiences, letting them know that space is accessible, space is cool. And to your point, Tere, it's not as daunting as it once used to be. It doesn't take years and years and years, and it might not even take millions of dollars. I mean, you can get a project up in 6 to 12 months, spending nowhere near as much money as you think you might do. And you might be able to get some fantastic results that, again, can benefit the scientific community and benefit humanity as a whole. And it's something then that we as communicators will have the ability to talk more about. And I think that it's those types of aha moments or that killer app that makes it much easier for us to then ultimately talk about the benefits of why space exploration matters and why space research matters.
I also think there's the element of getting kids involved. So I recently did a video on how some kids in Canada figured out that EpiPens were toxic in space, and it went super viral on pretty much every platform, and everyone loved it. And that's just kind of like a testament to the importance of getting kids involved, because we need to be communicating to that audience as well, because we get kids wanting to be an astronaut, and then by the time they're in late elementary school or middle school, they're like, never mind, I don't want to do that, and I actually don't even want to go into the space industry, because especially nowadays with Gen Z and younger, they're like, I want to work in environmentally friendly, sustainable, good industries that are benefiting humanity. And right now, I think a lot of people see it as space is bad for Earth, space is bad for the environment, we're just focusing on leaving this planet and not fixing the problems here on Earth, which, as we all know, couldn't be farther from the truth.
So if I could pick up on that too, in another project that Redwire was associated with last year, in
Plug.
what? So, it's working with new and novel companies or unique companies. And so last year you had the opportunity to work alongside Microsoft, who had an activation with the Marvel Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. And it was about trying to educate students on the notion of 3D printing and the types of careers that are available in the space community through that. And I think that those types of collaborations, those types of partnerships, that also helps to kind of spread the boundaries of, getting people excited, getting young people, to your point, who oftentimes run away at the age of like 12 years old saying, well, this stuff is kind of hard. But letting them know that while you might not be able to be an astronaut, you can be an engineer, you can be a scientist, you can be a communicator. It takes all of us coming together to talk about how space is a unifying area for us to really put our efforts towards, and the benefits, again, they can bring all of us.
That's a great point. So when Microsoft partnered up with Redwire and we talked about 3D printing and the importance of that as we, go to the moon and Mars eventually, but how you can use 3D printers now. So in the schools that we visited during our tour with that project, a lot of the schools have 3D printers in their classrooms. They don't know what to do with them. Like they don't know how to take a project and really figure out and make a connection to space. So this was an opportunity to kind of bring a big brand and a voice that made space seem cooler and more willing to like connect the dots. And we had a school actually order 13 printers for the classroom after we joined that conversation. So and like those steps, those moments create impact. And I agree with you, right? I think we need to do more of that and and kind of figure out where are those connection points, and where can we bring in some of those space enthusiasts that we have already seen that love space but don't necessarily know how to follow it the right way or follow it differently other than just launch. Not to say that launch is bad. We need that, right? But there's a lot of other things that happen in between. So actually, and that segues into my next question. So the agencies like NASA, right, have a responsibility to engage the public, to make sure that they're being educated on the benefits of Earth. And sometimes it's really hard for commercial or other private sectors to sort of fill in that gap. So where do you guys think we need to fill in the gap, right? If NASA's doing that part and working really hard to engage with the public, do we need to think a little bit differently in how we engage?
Yes. Is the short answer, yes. So to your point, NASA has limitations on the types of things that they can do from an outreach or a marketing perspective. Marketing is not something that NASA does. From an ISS National Lab perspective, it's something that we can loosely do. But I think that being able to forge relationships, whether it be with someone like a Camille as an example, I mean, these are the influencers, I think, that have the ability to drive audiences in fun and engaging ways that maybe we don't have the capacity to do. And she can tell those compelling stories, and not just using you as but using you as an example across the board. But again, we do need to stretch our wings a little bit and think outside of the box of ways to engage young people in particular, I would say. And how is it that they are consuming content right now? It's not, traditional just going to like CNN.com or spacenews.com. They're going to a lot of other different platforms. They're getting it digitally. So thinking about ways to connect with those types of people that are creating that content, and what access can we give them? What types of insight can we provide them? Are there ways where they can tell a story of how an investigator like Nicole Wagner right there goes from concept to being able to send an investigation to the International Space Station? What are some of the fun steps that are along the way, and how can we galvanize that younger audience so that they can be like, man, these are things that I really want to get behind?
I agree with you. I think though, there's a part of like the commercial and private entity, right? That like, we also have a commitment to our customers. Like we have to be able to communicate our capabilities and our opportunities that are available to the customer. So when there's opportunity, I think it would be great if we were able to partner better with the agencies and with like National Lab, which I know we do a lot of, to sort of help bridge the gap for the public audience, right? Because we have other priorities sometimes, and that's just sort of part of the business. So, I mean, I guess that's a call to action to you. We'll talk about it later.
Wow, just coming at me hot like that. No, but you are right. And I think that what NASA or a national lab can do, obviously you as a company, you have to try to sell the notion of why you want someone to go out there and leverage your facilities on the space station or future space platforms. Our job as a national laboratory, or NASA's job as communicators of research that's happening in space, is to kind of be your cheerleader and to acknowledge the fact that there are these great things, there are these facilities on station by companies, whether it be a Redwire or some of the others that are here at the conference. Here's the technologies that they have. Here's some of the science that they are helping to enable. And oh, by the way, you can leverage the National Laboratory and their resources to get your upmass up there and take advantage of these facilities too. So I agree with you. I mean, it's, we should be always working in unison, where your team is trying to talk about why Redwire is fantastic, whereas we're trying to talk about why there's facilities on station, such as with companies like Redwire, right, who can support your R&D visions.
And not just Redwire, right? Like our customers, like we want to be our customers' cheerleaders too, and we think what they're doing with us is really important. And so, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And then I think it takes all of us. Like you have an angle, like as an independent, or the journalists out there, like it takes all of us working together. And like, so you were talking about, you have a job to tell the story of what's up there and what do we do up there, and you have your own job, right? So then like an independent or a creator or somebody like a space enthusiast that can reach a different audience can come in and say, okay, like here's like this really cool story that that I think or know will resonate really well with like a large percentage of people. And then you get those people and then they're sharing it, and just like domino effects, right?
Actually, and question for you. What are you learning from your audience? Like as you're putting out a lot of these new videos, and you're really taking on this big responsibility to educate. What are you learning from your audience about what they want to see, or are they liking certain items? Are they being technical?
Yeah. So we're definitely, as you guys know, always learning about the audience. I think that, right now it's like people want to understand what's going on in space, like because they're really interested in it, but it's really hard to be connected with it. It's not like, airplanes are a little bit easier to connect with, like that side of aerospace, because you can fly in them.
It's tangible.
It's tangible. But space is not accessible, and we have painted this picture throughout the entirety of the space industry that it's rocket science, and we need to break that down. But people are really interested in like the really awesome stories, like that kids found EpiPens were toxic in space. That's something that's like really real to a lot of people, right? They're like, well, crap, I have an allergy. I need an EpiPen. What would I do, right? And so it's just making those connections in people's brains, which is how we all like interact with the world. It's how we all communicate and learn things, is making those connections. And we need to figure out like really cool ways. And I don't think it's that hard, honestly, because space is like very cool just in general. Like we already have that cool factor. We just need to figure out ways to connect it with people. And I think that there are absolutely a lot of technical interest out there as well. Like there's a lot of students that are like, wait, how do I get into the industry? Like when I went to college, like I had no idea like that all of these startups were starting to come around. And for me, it was just like the big primes, right? So I think there's a lot of things we can learn from it.
Yeah. It's I'm not a rocket scientist. Sounds cool though. But no, I think like even from my perspective, being an astronaut is amazing, but it's not something that I could